Oof, this episode. Right, so I feel like there are some things people expect from me at this point. Yes, I don't like how Ironwood is still portrayed as completely in the wrong by the majority of the characters. Yes, I was rooting for the Aesops against Team RWBY. Yes, I agree with Winter, and I honestly really like the interactions between her and Penny in this episode. And yes, Oscar deserves to die for harming Best Girl. But one step at a time, because I really want to end positively today, because this episode ended positively. Maybe not, that's not the right word, but it ended on a good note. So let's get what I disliked out of the way first. The most important thing to me that I fucking hated was the Team RWBY versus Aesop's fight. Not because it was badly animated, no. It was not badly animated, aside from this punching bit with Yang that looks fucking awful. Not because the Aesops just lost, or because I think RWBY are really stupid for thinking they can somehow save everyone. I mean, this episode shows they can't save everyone, but let's get into that later. The issue I have is the absolute ease in which Team RWBY take them down. Let's consider the Aesops are a highly skilled and trained team with a lot more experience that work in sync perfectly and were chosen specifically to complement each other. And while they don't share the power of friendship that Team RWBY does, they do have an understanding of one another. However, they get so badly obliterated, they look as bad as Team fucking Arbon. You probably don't even remember who that is. It's these guys. The Aesops look like the weakest bunch of characters in the entire volume, and they got absolutely annihilated. Not only did none of Team RWBY get badly hurt, or even hurt at all really throughout this, they have these absolute blank faces for a lot of the fight that make it look like they're not even trying, and I can't forgive how shitty that is. It literally insults me that Rooster Teeth would have them take down what was honestly quite a hype opponent. I was excited for this fight to an extent, as if they were just grim. The only member of the Aesops that came out looking no weaker than before is Harriet, who was not only matching RWBY, but was also able to fight despite being restrained, and only lost because Weiss intervened. Blake and Yang managed to take down Vine and Elm with such stupid ease, it's ridiculous. Given they landed so few blows compared to the ones Elm laid down, it's just embarrassing. The way this is animated makes it seem like the Aesop's best and strongest attacks barely harm Team RWBY, while Team RWBY's worst managed to trounce the Aesops. It's embarrassing. It made me come out thinking Mario doesn't know the limits of his own semblance. Vine could somehow get comboed without Elm even trying to help. Elm seriously had to go down in such an embarrassing position. Yeah, phrasing, I know. But this is terrible. And I know what some are thinking. The Aesops weren't trying to kill Team RWBY, and they were conflicted. But that's stupid. First off, it makes Team RWBY look like they don't even care about the consequences of their actions. Consider that if Team RWBY didn't act the way they did, that a certain Irishman wouldn't have died, as no conflict would have occurred. But also, Team RWBY aren't even considering that there's any positives or upsides or even reasons to Ironwood's choice. They act as if them stopping Ironwood will solve everything, but that's not. It's not going to help everyone. Because if they do stop Ironwood, but then Cinder manages to get the Winter Maiden powers, and Salem gets the relic, then they have just saved the people of Mantle from dying to the Grim, and instead given them death by falling city, as Atlas would fall without the power source. And they also condemn everyone on Atlas to dying, including the people on Atlas who are from Mantle. The only people who would survive would be anyone from Mantle who happens to still be in a ship and is able to get away from the falling city before it hits. And even then, the flying Baringals would probably destroy. Remember them? I do, sadly. If they stop Ironwood but fail to stop Salem, they will produce worse results than if they had just tried to stop Salem. But knowing this show, they'll somehow stop both Salem's plans and Ironwood. The fact that the Aesops would be the conflicted ones doesn't reflect well on Team RWBY, as the Aesops are actual experienced military personnel who shouldn't let their conflict stop their combat skills. You know, like how Winter doesn't let her internal conflict stop her from doing what she needs to do. Because if the Aesops succeed, nothing bad happens for them, and if the or anyone, aside from the people who were already going to have bad things happen to them, and if the Aesops fail, they fail. If Team RWBY succeed, they risk everyone. If they beat the Aesops and then beat Ironwood, they risk everyone in Atlas and Mantle dying by not letting Ironwood go through with his plan. Not to say that I necessarily agree 100% with Ironwood's martial law, take every one of the rich cunts up to live. But the fact of the matter is, if he doesn't do that, if he does not use the relic and get everyone up, if he does not save the people he can save, and he just sits there and tries to save everyone, he is risking too much, because he will cause everyone to die. Anyway, the only time anyone uses the Aesop's emotions to their advantage is just Yang pissing off Elm as well, and that's it. Team RWBY weren't trying to kill the Aesops either, and if they were, then they're fucking awful people and should be ashamed of themselves. The fight just pissed me off, because it's the equivalent of if the Thor versus Hulk fight in Thor Ragnarok wasn't a fight at all, and if instead Thor took down Hulk without using any of his godly powers or any of the weapons that are there, or no effort. Like if Thor vs. Hulk was the same as Hulk versus Thanos, that sort of letdown. Also, RWBY's line of, "You were, and then you trained us," physically made me cringe. And that's not necessarily a criticism, it's a me thing. I don't like the delivery of the line itself, especially because it's dumb. The Aesops would be absolutely brain dead to have not gotten anything themselves from training Team RWBY and Juniper. But also, the Aesops should know the ins and outs of Team RWBY's strengths and weaknesses as well, otherwise they did awful at training them because they wouldn't have been able to help at all. Seriously, just fuck this fight. I get if you like it, okay? It's well animated, it's hype, and it's got some good moments, but I can't get over how shitty it makes the Aesops look. It was clearly done solely because RT wanted to make some new characters, either for more merch sales or to get fan attention, but they didn't want to intelligently write them out of this conflict. And they just said, hey, we can make Team RWBY look stupidly overpowered and also get rid of these characters we barely care about and likely won't ever appear much after this volume. Now to what I did like. Okay, hold on. Before what I did like, I can't believe that Neo, of all people, couldn't secure Oscar and prevent him from running in, but also couldn't avoid Oscar's punch. Neo fucking dodged a punch from Yang that was just as telegraphed, if not more telegraphed. And are we seriously suggesting Oscar is above Volume 2 Yang? Because if you think that, fuck off, that's stupid. I get that killing Oscar probably isn't the best idea, because, Ozpin, but are you actually shitting me? She couldn't at least amputate him, tie him up to a condition that he wouldn't be able to move again? Just fucking cut his limbs off. If I was Salem, that's what I would do to get rid of Ozpin. I would try to fucking rip his limbs off, and Neo had the perfect opportunity to do that. Now, for what I did like. Before I get into what I really liked, I'm just gonna talk quickly. I didn't script this, I forgot to. I like the Winter and Penny scenes because I liked Winter's characterization and Penny's. If any character is going to put their emotions above their orders in Atlas, it would be Penny, and I legitimately can see, I guess also Pietro, but he's not important. Not really. At least in the volume's narrative, Pietro could be taken out and really change nothing. It would just give no explanation to why Penny's back. But she's a robot, so we didn't really need an explanation exactly, did we? Anyway, I did actually really like that. I thought that they were going to have some sort of Penny changes Winter's mind with the power of emotions. But no, I actually really liked the whole Winter can't stop how she feels, but she has to put that aside for what she does, because that feels like actual it makes them feel more realistic that she's acting in a more military way. Well, Penny, who is essentially just like a child, right? She's barely been alive. She's been alive for like less than any other characters, even Oscar. Penny would not understand that necessarily, would she? Anyway, the entire time Crow, Clover, and Tyrion, and I guess also Robin, were on screen, I was stupidly invested. I legitimately liked the tension between Crow, Clover, and Robin on the ship, but also, in my opinion, the three-way battle between Crow, Tyrion, and Clover is the best fight RWBY has had since RWBY vs. Neo and Roman. Yes, in my opinion, this even tops the first Crow and Tyrion fight to me. Yes, that fight was hype as shit, but also Crow being injured didn't end up having many real consequences, as Team Ranger would have gone to Haven anyway. Yes, Cinder vs. Raven was hype, but it didn't at all use all the potential it had. It could have gone a lot further and been a lot cooler. Yes, the first part of Yang vs. Adam is awesome, but the rest sucked. This fight, oh my god, this fight, I can't say enough how good it is. Alright, first, the choreography is fantastic. Despite how ludicrously stupid the weapons Crow and Clover use, and even Tyrion, his weapons are pretty dumb as well, they really pulled it off. The combat is fast and well animated. It looks brilliant. It's not so boring or full of animation errors that I'm pulled out of the experience, that I'm unengaged. And even when Crow and Tyrion do work together to take down Clover, it doesn't make them look weak or make Clover look too strong, as throughout, it's pretty obvious that Tyrion isn't really trying, and he's just treating it like a game, because it's Tyrion, and that a lot of the times, when Clover isn't getting hit or blocking, he's relying on his luck to get through a lot of the battle, which makes sense, and honestly, I hope Crow starts doing that more, relying on his bad luck on his opponent to help out. And even then, Tyrion and Crow did land more hits than Clover, but it doesn't make Clover look overpowered because Crow and Tyrion do win, and neither of them lose their auras. So in the end, they did pretty soundly defeat Clover. I can't talk enough about how much I love this fight. It brings the hype, the choreography, the character animation, and best of all, actual, lasting consequence. Clover dies, and I'll admit, I did totally see his death coming, But the show did kind of pull a fast one on me, not because he died, but because of how it went down. Yes, I knew the moment Harbinger wasn't reclaimed by Crow that Tyrion would somehow kill Clover with it. But when it actually happens, it still managed to hit home for me, even though I knew it was coming. I wasn't exactly jaw-dropped, or as RT would like to say, vomiting over it, because I think there were like some tweets or something where they said people would vomit over this episode. But rather, I was like, oh shit. Which is more than anything else this volume, or even this show, has done for me since Volume 3. This battle had real consequences, real effects on the characters. Well, except Tyrion, but he's a lunatic anyway. It actually matters to the narrative of the show. And I love that. I love this fight. I love that it doesn't end all willy-nilly good for the heroes, which happens too often in this show when it shouldn't, looking at the final battle of Volume 5 where the heroes should have not won, because it makes no sense for them to have actually won. The only part I disliked was Crow saying Ironwood would pay, even though, like, Tyrion killed him. It's all Tyrion's fault. Crow, you could have just not worked with Tyrion, just said, hey, instead, Clover, you and I work together to take him down, and then you can try and arrest me. You know, Tyrion's clearly the more important person than the rest right now. And also, Tyrion crashed the ship, and heck, even Robin is responsible for the fight actually instigating. And while he doesn't know it, if Team RWBY weren't defiant directly to Ironwood's face and actually thought about their choices, like, at least be defiant behind Ironwood's back, because while that would be infuriating, it'd at least make them not look so careless, this wouldn't have happened. And I can excuse that, you know, because Crow's emotional right now. He's just lost someone who he really felt the connection with, someone he really thought he understood and was happy to be around. And that's just been ripped straight out of his life. And I hope they actually explore the consequences this has on his character in the next volume. But as a final thing, while I dislike some of Jason's performances in place of Vic as Crow, his acting at the end of this episode is phenomenal. Coming here from someone who does voice act along on this channel, not professionally and not at the level of someone who would need to be on Rooster Teeth, then again they have gotten really bad voice actors in the past, not important. Regardless of how much I like Crow and how much it may or may not sound like Crow, there is actual emotion in the voice. You can feel for this character. I felt for this character. This is the first time I've cared for Crow in a long time. In fact, the last thing I can say about this episode is that it is the first time RWBY has made me care emotionally for anyone in its show in a long, long time. It legitimately made me feel an emotion because of what happened to someone. And the last time I can remember that happening legitimately, and not like I felt a little bit, but like I actually felt a real big emotion, was Pyrrha's death. That was the last time I actually felt anything like this. And it's not because I thought Clover was a great character, but because of the way it will affect Crow and the acting from Jason. Just, if by some miracle he watches this, I will criticize you, as everyone is warranted criticism, even me, but you were phenomenal in this episode. You were amazing. The fact that this episode made me feel an emotion matters to me. And there is nothing more positive I could say than that.